Jake Lorne was not a rich man, not even close. He had a small apartment on the edge of the bustling trade sector of Nova Station, a place where humans were rare and often underestimated. To most aliens, humans were clever in small ways but fragile and insignificant when it came to serious technology. Jake didn't care. He had curiosity, and sometimes curiosity was better than money. On this particular day, the station's largest auction hall was alive with activity. Bright lights danced across polished floors, and merchants from dozens of worlds shouted over each other. Ships of all shapes and sizes were displayed, some gleaming with new technology, others rusty and forgotten. Jake wandered through the aisles, his eyes scanning for bargains. He had no idea what he was looking for exactly. Maybe a small drone or a navigation module or even a broken antenna. Anything that could give him something new to tinker with. Humans like to experiment, and Jake was no exception. Then he saw it. At the very back of the auction hall, almost hidden behind a stack of crates, sat a spaceship. It was unlike anything Jake had seen before. Its hull was old and scratched, covered in layers of dust and strange markings. Its engines were silent, but the lines of the ship were elegant, even in decay. Most of the crowd ignored it. Alien collectors whispered among themselves. "Worthless," said one. "Too old," said another. "A relic from a dead civilization," someone else added. Jake smiled. That was exactly the kind of opportunity he liked. No one was bidding. No one even seemed to notice. The auctioneer, a tall insectoid named Zarthel, cleared his throat. His many eyes glittered as he spoke. Lot 349, ancient vessel, origin unknown. Last known to fly over 5 millennia ago. Minimal documentation, appears to be non-functional. Starting bid, 10 credits. 10 credits. That was less than Jake spent on breakfast. He whispered to himself, "Well, that's cheap enough." Other bidders laughed. "A joke," a reptilian merchant hissed. "You'll lose 10 credits and nothing more." Jake raised his hand. 10 credits, he said calmly. A pause. Then another alien bid, 50 credits. Jake's stomach sank, but he wasn't ready to give up. 60 credits, he whispered, his heart racing. The auctioneer paused, looking between bidders. But then, strangely, no one else moved. The room went silent. The ship, as if sensing the moment, shimmered faintly. Its lines seemed to shift in the corner of Jake's eye. "Sold," Zarthel announced finally, "to the human." Jake couldn't believe it. He had actually won. As he made his way to the docking bay to claim the ship, whispers followed him. "How? Why? A human?" Jake ignored them. His mind raced with possibilities. He didn't know how to fly such an ancient ship. He didn't know what powers it held or if it even would start. But the thrill of discovery made his pulse quicken. The docking bay was massive, filled with ships of all sizes. The ancient vessel sat quietly, its hull gleaming faintly under the bay lights. Jake approached it, running his fingers along the cool, smooth surface. Strange symbols carved into the metal glowed faintly. A hum came from inside, almost like the ship was breathing. Jake hesitated. Then he stepped inside. The interior was dim, yet not dark. Panels lined the walls, covered with unfamiliar symbols and glowing lines that shifted when he looked directly at them. The floor vibrated slightly under his feet. It was as if the ship was alive and aware of his presence. A voice suddenly spoke, not through a speaker but inside his head, clear, calm, and with a hint of amusement. "Welcome, new owner. You have much to learn." Jake froze. He blinked, thinking it was some kind of audio system glitch, but the voice continued. "I am the vessel. My creators are gone, but I remain. Do you understand what you hold?" Jake swallowed hard. I don't know," he admitted. "I just bought you," the ship hummed. "Ah. Typical human modesty. Very well. Let us begin." Panels shifted, opening spaces that revealed star charts and holographic projections. The ceiling displayed constellations unfamiliar to him, some from systems that didn't even appear on current galactic maps. Jake's mind spun. 5,000 years of history, hidden knowledge, and advanced technology, all contained in the ship. And it had chosen him. He spent hours exploring the ship systems, trying buttons, reading inscriptions, and watching in awe as the ship responded to his curiosity. The more he interacted, the more the vessel adapted, opening new panels and showing hidden compartments. Outside the bay, the crowd had grown curious. Rumors spread that a human had acquired an ancient ship, one that could have been lost for millennia. Alien spectators whispered in disbelief. "Impossible," said a trader from Kethar Prime. "Humans aren't ready for such power." Jake ignored them. He had bigger concerns. How did the ship work? How could he pilot it? And most importantly, what did it want from him? Finally, the vessel spoke again. "I sense potential. You are different from your kind. You think in ways they do not. You are interesting." Jake chuckled nervously. "Interesting? That's the nicest thing anyone's ever called me." The ship vibrated almost like it was laughing. "I will teach you, but first we must move. There are eyes upon us." Suddenly, the doors of the bay hissed open. Outside, alien inspectors had arrived, scanning the vessel. Jake realized that others wanted to see what he had won, and perhaps take it from him. "Can we leave?" he asked. "Yes," the ship replied. "But remember, the galaxy is not prepared for you, not yet." Jake strapped himself into the pilot's chair. The controls responded to his touch as if they had been waiting for him all along. Lights flickered. Engines hummed. The ship lifted smoothly off the bay floor, ignoring gravitational restraints and docking clamps. Outside, the crowd gasped. The derelict vessel, ancient, forgotten, and dismissed, glided into the sky. A human was at the helm. A species long underestimated was about to prove its worth. Jake grinned. "Well, here goes nothing." The ship accelerated, faster than any human ship he had ever seen. Stars blurred into streaks of light. The ancient vessel seemed to guide him, revealing shortcuts through space and safe paths past dangerous asteroids. As they jumped into hyperspace, the ship spoke again. "You are not here by accident. You were chosen, and soon the galaxy will know your name." Jake leaned back, heart pounding, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through him. He had bought a ship for 10 credits, but it was worth far more than he could imagine. And somehow, he knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere deep in the galaxy, alien factions were already noticing a new presence, one that had not been seen before, one that they could not predict, and one that might change everything. The human pilot laughed quietly to himself. 5,000-year-old ship, 10 credits, and now, who knows what comes next? The stars stretched before him, endless and waiting. And Jake knew that for the first time, humans were no longer small, clever, or ignored. They were something new, something unpredictable. The galaxy had just met its newest player, and it was a human. The stars outside stretched in long streaks of light as Jake Lorne sat in the pilot's chair of the ancient ship. The hum of the engines was steady and deep, almost like a heartbeat. The vessel felt alive beneath him, responding to the smallest shift of his hands. Even after hours, Jake still could not believe what he had stumbled upon. A 5,000-year-old alien ship, bought for 10 credits, was now in his control, and it was teaching him. "Good morning, new pilot," the ship said, its voice calm and patient. "Or is it afternoon where you are? Time is not fixed in space as you humans like to measure it." Jake rubbed his eyes and laughed softly. "Morning, I guess. I didn't sleep. Too much to figure out." "You will sleep soon enough," the ship replied. "But first, we have lessons to begin." Jake leaned forward, his fingers tracing the glowing symbols on the control panels. He had tried pressing buttons randomly at first, but the ship was patient. Each panel shifted and changed in response to his touch, showing images he had never seen. Swirling energy patterns, three-dimensional star maps, and diagrams of machines that existed nowhere in human science. "It's like a library," Jake whispered. "A library you can fly." "More than a library," said the ship. "It is a guide, a teacher, a companion, and you are my student." Jake blinked. "Student, I don't even know where to start." The ship's lights pulsed gently, illuminating a large holographic map in the center of the cabin. Stars, planets, and entire systems glowed in a lattice of blue and gold. Some of the systems bore strange symbols Jake could not read. "First lesson, navigation," the ship said. "Not just through space, but through possibilities. Watch carefully." Suddenly, a line of light stretched from one corner of the map to another. The ship moved with a subtle tilt, guiding Jake's chair to align with the projected path. "See," the ship continued. "Ancient paths, hidden shortcuts, regions you humans have never dared to explore. Some are safe, some are dangerous, but all are opportunities." Jake stared at the map, amazed. Every jump, every possible route seemed to glow with possibilities. Wormholes that human technology had only guessed at were clearly marked. Energy-rich asteroid fields shimmered in ways his human sensors had never detected. "This is incredible," Jake breathed. "I can go anywhere." "Yes," said the ship. "But remember, knowledge is not the same as control. You must understand before you act." Over the next several days, Jake learned to communicate with the vessel. It was patient, teaching him slowly. Symbols transformed into simple shapes, shapes into patterns, patterns into understanding. The ship revealed how its engines used a form of energy unknown to humans, a combination of gravitational manipulation and quantum resonance. Jake's human brain strained, but slowly he began to grasp the principles, and he began to experiment. He tested the ship's agility near small asteroids. It moved smoothly, weaving between rocks with a grace that made his stomach lurch in excitement. He tried activating the defense shields, watching them ripple like water around the ship. He even managed to access some of the ship's communication systems, sending short greetings to passing traders and receiving startled responses. Most aliens didn't believe a human could operate such a vessel. Rumors spread quickly through Nova Station and beyond. The human pilot controls a 5,000-year-old ship alive. Jake didn't care about rumors. He had bigger goals to understand. One afternoon, while exploring a set of newly revealed holographic charts, the ship spoke quietly. "I detect observers." Jake froze. "Observers?" "Yes, alien fleets, curious, cautious, some concerned. You are drawing attention." Jake leaned closer to the main console. "Can we avoid them?" the ship hummed thoughtfully. "Yes, but the galaxy is watching. You are no longer invisible, Jake Lorne, do you understand?" He nodded slowly. "I think so. They think humans are weak. They think I'm weak." "Correct, and this is your advantage." Jake smiled a little nervously. "Advantage, got it. So what should I do?" "Learn, adapt, think differently. Humans have a unique perspective, you must use it." And so Jake did. He spent hours learning the ship's ancient language of symbols, discovering methods of energy manipulation that humans had never imagined. He found records of civilizations that had risen and vanished, maps of unclaimed star systems, and hints of technologies that could reshape entire planets. One day, the ship opened a section of the hull that revealed a large, empty chamber. Panels unfolded to show a device that glowed with soft light. "What is this?" Jake asked. "A recorder," said the ship. "Memories of the past. You may watch, listen, learn. But beware, history is not always kind." Jake activated the recorder. Images filled the chamber. Alien worlds, ancient cities, and beings whose shapes he could barely comprehend. He saw civilizations building massive energy collectors, planets being carefully cultivated, and once powerful races suddenly collapsing without warning. "Why did they fail?" Jake whispered. "Arrogance, overconfidence, failure to adapt," the ship said simply. "Learn from them. You may be small now, but your species can become great if you use your mind and your curiosity." Jake's heart swelled. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed as fragile and primitive. Yet here he was, alone with a ship that had survived millennia. And now it was teaching him, not to fight but to think. Days turned into weeks. Jake experimented with the ship's propulsion, mastering jumps into hidden wormholes. He learned to manipulate the ship's energy output to reveal hidden asteroid belts rich with rare minerals. He even discovered a way to communicate subtly with nearby ships, sending signals that humans had never mastered before. And the galaxy began to notice. First, it was whispers in the corridors of Nova Station. Traders and scouts spoke in hushed tones about a human piloting an ancient vessel. Then came messages from distant councils, curious, cautious, and sometimes scornful. How can a human control such power? Some asked. It is impossible, others said, but Jake ignored them. He had work to do. One evening, as the ship hovered near a quiet nebula, the vessel spoke in a tone that made Jake shiver with excitement. You have learned much, Jake Lorne. You understand more than I expected, but the galaxy will soon test you. Eyes are watching and not all are friendly, Jake nodded. I know, but I think I'm ready. Good, the ship said. Your first real test is near. We will approach a system under dispute by several factions. How you navigate it will determine your reputation. Jake leaned back in the pilot's chair, staring at the nebula. He felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. This was bigger than him, bigger than anything he had imagined. But for the first time in his life, he felt powerful. Not in terms of weapons or armies, but in knowledge and ingenuity. You think humans are small, weak, and simple, he said quietly, talking to himself. But maybe we're the ones who can see differently. And maybe that's what matters. The ship hummed almost approvingly. Indeed, curiosity and adaptability are your greatest strengths. Remember this. You are the first human to wield a power few species have ever touched. Do not waste it. As Jake prepared to leave the nebula, a flicker on the navigation panel caught his eye. Alien ships. Not warships, but observers. Curious, cautious, and very interested in this human who dared to pilot a ship no one had touched in thousands of years. Jake's hands tightened on the controls. Let's see what they want, he muttered. And as the ship glided forward, smoothly and effortlessly, Jake felt a strange thrill. For the first time, he realized that the galaxy was no longer something humans only lived in. It was something humans could shape. And he, Jake Lorne, had just begun. The ancient vessel pulsed gently, almost like it was smiling. The galaxy watches, but it does not yet understand. That is your advantage. Use it wisely. Jake grinned, heart racing. Oh, I will. Somewhere in the distant stars, alien councils were already talking. Rumors of a human in control of a 5,000-year-old ship were spreading faster than light. And every rumor carried one question. Who is this human? And what can he do? Jake didn't have an answer yet, but he knew one thing for certain. Humans were no longer invisible. They were beginning to be noticed, and soon they would be remembered. Jake Lorne had become comfortable with the ancient vessel, though comfortable might not have been the right word. The ship was unpredictable, clever, and sometimes impatient with his mistakes. Yet every time he thought he had learned all its secrets, it revealed another. Today, he was approaching a system at the edge of the known galaxy. It was a cluster of planets disputed by multiple alien factions, each one claiming rights to its resources, its trade routes, or its strategic position. Usually, such disputes ended with negotiations or shows of force. But Jake had no desire for conflict. Humans were clever, yes, but he preferred to solve problems with brains rather than brawn. The ship hummed gently as they entered the system. Observation vessels are present, it said. Several species are monitoring. Some are curious, some are doubtful. Your presence will be noticed. Jake squinted at the holographic display. Tiny dots moved in careful formations around the system's planets. Ships from the Cathari, the Viril, and the Trogan fleets patrolled the edges of the orbital zones. Each species had its own expectations. They did not know that a human, inexperienced and underestimated, was in their midst. Let's make this interesting, Jake muttered. He began analyzing the orbital paths of asteroids and satellites in the system. Ancient markings in the ship's archives suggested ways to move objects using gravitational manipulation, technology the galaxy had largely forgotten. He had studied the theory for days, but now he had a real opportunity to test it. "Are you certain?" the ship asked. "The observers may react unpredictably." Jake grinned. "That's the point." He activated the controls. The ship's energy thrummed as tiny gravitational currents shifted the paths of several asteroids, forming a barrier that prevented the fleets from moving too close to a vulnerable planet. He subtly realigned the asteroid belts to create safe passages for trade ships that had been blocked by the ongoing dispute. "Watch," Jake said, pointing at the holographic map. Observers blinked as trade routes opened in real time, routes they had assumed impossible. Aliens whispered to each other in alarm. How could a single ship, piloted by a human, move entire asteroid fields without weapons? "Impressive," said a Vril commander, his many eyes widening. "But how?" Jake leaned back, pretending to think. "I have my ways," he said with a shrug, a small smile on his face. The ship laughed softly, a low hum that vibrated through the cabin. "Your species may be underestimated, Jake, but ingenuity is your greatest strength. You think in ways others cannot imagine." More fleets arrived, drawn by curiosity. Diplomatic envoys hovered in orbit, transmitting messages. "Identify yourself," one Trogan voice demanded. "Who dares manipulate this system?" Jake activated the communication channel. His voice was calm but firm. "I am Jake Lorne, human. I do not intend harm. I only wish to open trade routes and share knowledge." A moment of silence. Then alien murmurs spread through the transmissions. "A human, alone." "Yes," Jake confirmed. "Alone with this vessel." The Trogan commander hesitated. "This cannot be technology this advanced in human hands." Jake smiled. "Perhaps you underestimate humans. Perhaps you will not again." The fleets watched as Jake continued to manipulate the asteroid paths, opening safe passages, redirecting energy flows from unstable asteroids, and balancing gravitational currents that even sophisticated alien computers would struggle to predict. Trade ships began moving through the system safely, and small stations sent thanks and surprised applause through transmissions. One Cathari diplomat, a sleek blue alien with a calm voice, finally spoke. "How does a human do what dozens of fleets and thousands of calculations cannot? This is remarkable." Jake shrugged again. "We humans are adaptable. We look at problems differently. Sometimes that's enough." The fleets were silent for a moment, then whispers spread rapidly. The word human began to carry a weight it had never held before. Humans were clever, yes. Curious, yes. Fragile, yes. But maybe humans were something else. Something no alien species had predicted. Then a new challenge appeared. A small, unstable moon was drifting dangerously close to the system's inner planet. A collision would destroy settlements, trade stations, and research outposts. Alien fleets hesitated, unsure how to respond without risking ships. Jake's pulse quickened. "Looks like we have a real test." The ship's hum deepened. "You have the knowledge, but execution will require creativity." Jake activated the gravitational arrays again, this time with more precision. The moon responded slowly, its course bending under the influence of invisible currents. Energy surged from the ship, surrounding the moon with a protective field while guiding it safely into a stable orbit. "Done," Jake said, wiping sweat from his brow. The alien observers gasped. Entire fleets had tried for weeks to stabilize the moon and failed. A single human had done it in minutes. "Unbelievable," whispered the Trogan commander. He is human. And yet—" "Yes," said the Cathari diplomat. "And yet he has done what we could not, without weapons, without armies, with only his mind and that ship." Jake leaned back, a smile creeping across his face. "Humans, simple, yes, but maybe clever enough to surprise even the galaxy." The ship's voice was quieter now, almost proud. "You have done well, but remember the galaxy is watching. Some will admire, some will envy, some may challenge. Be ready." Jake nodded. "I'm ready. Let them come. Let them see what humans can do." The fleets, slowly realizing that their assumptions had been wrong, began sending envoys for formal diplomacy. Messages poured in. Invitations, requests for alliances, proposals for trade. The galaxy that had ignored humans, or worse, mocked them, was now curious, interested, even respectful. Jake felt a strange pride. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as weak or fragile. Now, aboard this ancient vessel, he was showing the galaxy what humans were capable of: intelligence, creativity, and the courage to act when others hesitated. "Do you see it?" Jake asked the ship. "They didn't expect me to succeed. They thought I was too small to matter, and now, the ship said, they are beginning to respect you, and by extension your species." Jake laughed quietly. Not bad for a human who bought a ship for 10 credits. But the moment of triumph was not without consequence. Sensors picked up unknown signals approaching the system. They were fast, intelligent, and purposeful. Alien ships, unknown fleets moving in formations that suggested strategy rather than curiosity. "Visitors," the ship said. "Not all will be friendly. The galaxy has noticed, and some will test you." Jake's grin widened. "Then it's time to show them exactly what humans can do." He maneuvered the ship closer to the inner system, guiding it with precision through asteroid belts and energy streams, demonstrating once again the vessel's power and his growing skill. The alien observers watched in awe as the human moved with confidence and creativity, navigating paths they could barely calculate. Messages began arriving from other sectors. Aliens who had previously ignored humanity were now asking questions. Who is this human? What can he do? Some admitted fear, others expressed admiration. One message from a distant council read simply, "Humans, perhaps we have misjudged them." Jake chuckled. "Misjudged us just a bit." As night fell on the inner planet, Jake took a moment to reflect. He had begun this journey as a curious human with no resources, piloting a forgotten vessel. Now, he was becoming a figure of attention and influence across the galaxy. His actions had demonstrated a truth the galaxy had never considered. Humans were not weak. Humans were adaptable, clever, and unpredictable. "You have done well," the ship said again softly. "But your true test is yet to come. Influence, respect, even power. These are not granted, they must be earned." Jake leaned back in his chair, eyes on the stars. "Then we'll earn them, one step at a time, one discovery at a time, and maybe one human at a time." The ancient vessel pulsed lightly under him, as if acknowledging the statement. Together, pilot and ship prepared to face the challenges ahead. The galaxy was no longer a place where humans were small. It was a place where humans could shine, if only they dared. And Jake Lorne, the human who had bought a 5,000-year-old ship for 10 credits, was daring. Somewhere alien leaders were beginning to whisper, "The humans, they are not what we expected. Watch them closely. Learn from them or fall behind." The turning point had arrived. Humanity was no longer on the sidelines. Humanity had arrived. And Jake was leading the way. The galaxy had noticed humans. Not just as survivors, not just as a species clever enough to invent new tools, but as beings capable of changing entire systems through intelligence, adaptability, and courage. And at the center of this attention was Jake Lorne, a human who had bought a 5,000-year-old alien ship for 10 credits. Jake had become more confident over the months of exploration. The ancient vessel responded to his instincts almost as if it anticipated his thoughts. Together, they had stabilized chaotic systems, opened trade routes that had been closed for centuries, and even averted natural disasters. The galaxy, which had once laughed at humans, was now watching with awe and curiosity. Today, Jake was approaching the Orvath cluster, a group of planets rich in resources but long neglected due to political disputes among alien factions. Messages from various councils arrived continuously, invitations to conferences, requests for trade negotiations, and offers of diplomatic alliances. For the first time in history, humans were not just participants, they were sought after. "Looks like we're popular," Jake said to the ship, a grin on his face. "You are," the vessel replied, its voice calm yet tinged with amusement. "Curiosity, adaptability, and courage have drawn attention, but influence is not the same as control. You must use it wisely." Jake leaned forward, studying the holographic map of the Orvath cluster. Trade routes were blocked by territorial disputes, some minor, some fierce. He could see the complexity. Alien fleets patrolled disputed zones, tensions simmered, and smaller settlements risked being cut off from essential supplies. "Time to help," Jake muttered. Using the ship's ancient capabilities, he calculated gravitational pathways that allowed safe passage for freighters. He subtly redirected minor asteroids and energy fields, creating new routes that neither human nor alien navigators had discovered before. Messages were sent automatically through the ship's communication channels, alerting traders and station managers. The effect was immediate. Trade flourished in places that had been stagnant for decades. Smaller planets, once ignored, received supplies for the first time in years. Alien envoys, who had come expecting to observe a human and laugh, now sent their own congratulations. A Cathari diplomat spoke first, her voice cautious but respectful. "Jake Lorne, your work, it benefits all parties. Your species demonstrates creativity we have underestimated. We wish to formalize cooperation." Jake leaned back. "Cooperation, that's good. Better than conflict, right?" "Indeed," she said. "The galaxy is beginning to see humans differently." The human smiled quietly. "That's the idea. But the galaxy was never simple. Not all factions welcomed humans with open arms. Some were envious. Some feared that a single human armed with an ancient vessel could influence outcomes they could not control. Jake sensed it through the ship. Observers approaching, not friendly this time. The vessel pulsed lightly. "Indeed, some will test you. But remember, Jake, intelligence and creativity are your weapons. You do not need fleets to command respect." The new arrivals were a group of alien strategists and negotiators. Their leader, a tall, angular being from the Zorath sector, addressed him through the ship's communication system. "Human, you have stirred curiosity, but influence without oversight is dangerous. Surrender the vessel and we will discuss terms." Jake chuckled softly. "Terms? You mean threats? I think we can find a better way." "Explain," the Zorath voice demanded. Jake leaned forward, bringing up a holographic display of the Orvath cluster. "Look at the situation. These planets were blocked by disputes. Trade halted, people suffering. If we work together, everyone benefits. I don't need armies or weapons to fix problems. All I need is knowledge and creativity." There was silence. Then the Zorath paused. "You solve problems instead of destroying. Curious." Jake smiled. "We humans try to adapt. Solve things differently, it's what we do best." The Zorath Council murmured among themselves. Slowly their tone softened. "Perhaps humans are worth observing closely." Jake felt a rush of triumph. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, ignored, and sometimes dismissed as fragile. Now the galaxy was learning the truth. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and adaptable. "Good work, Jake," said the ship. "But influence is only useful if it is shared." "Cooperation brings legacy," Jake nodded. "Then let's share it." Over the next months, Jake traveled through dozens of systems. He brokered agreements between species that had been in conflict for decades. He opened new trade routes, repaired failing ecosystems using the ship's advanced energy systems, and shared knowledge of ancient technology in ways that improved everyone's lives. Alien leaders began seeking him out for advice. Humans, previously dismissed as a minor species, became respected diplomats and innovators. Jake never claimed power for himself. Instead, he focused on demonstrating what humanity could do when underestimated: solve problems, create opportunities, and unite others. On one particular mission, Jake arrived at a planet threatened by a natural energy storm, a phenomenon that had destroyed settlements for centuries. Alien scientists were baffled. Jake studied the patterns, consulted the ship's archives, and then acted. Using gravitational manipulation and energy redirection, he stabilized the storm and redirected its energy harmlessly into a nearby uninhabited system. The aliens were astonished. "How did you?" Jake shrugged. "Different perspective. Humans notice patterns others miss. And sometimes luck." The galaxy began to talk. Stories spread from one sector to another: a human piloting an ancient vessel, solving problems, making peace, improving trade, saving worlds. Humans were no longer a species to be underestimated. Even the oldest alien civilizations, long proud of their technological and strategic dominance, began to send emissaries to observe and learn from humans. Some admitted quietly that humans had something they lacked: adaptability, curiosity, and the courage to act boldly without fear of failure. The ultimate test came when a vast, unstable star threatened to collapse, endangering several systems at once. Alien fleets were ready to evacuate, but Jake and his ship saw another way. Using the ship's advanced energy manipulation, he stabilized the star's magnetic fields and redirected dangerous energy into a safe orbit. Entire planets were saved. Alien fleets could only watch in awe. For the first time, humans were not just clever, they were indispensable. "Remarkable," the V-Real ambassador said. "You did what no fleet, no council, no army could do." Jake smiled. "Sometimes it just takes thinking differently. Humans notice what others overlook." Word spread quickly. Humans were no longer peripheral players in the galaxy. They were innovators, problem solvers, and respected partners. Jake, the human who had purchased a 5,000-year-old ship for 10 credits, had become a symbol of what humanity could achieve. "Do you see it?" Jake asked the ship. "They're finally taking us seriously, not because we're strong, but because we're clever." The ship pulsed gently. "Yes, your species is unpredictable, adaptable, and resourceful. You have proven that intelligence, courage, and cooperation can surpass power. Humanity's legacy is beginning." Jake felt a quiet pride. Humans had always been underestimated. Yet here they were, leading the galaxy not through war or force, but through understanding, creativity, and determination. As he navigated back to the Nova Station hub, messages poured in from grateful colonies, curious councils, and admiring species. Humans had changed the way the galaxy worked. Trade flourished, disputes were resolved peacefully, and knowledge that had been forgotten for millennia was now shared for the benefit of all. Jake smiled. "Not bad for a human who bought a ship for 10 credits, huh?" The ship hummed softly. "Not bad at all. But remember, legacy is maintained through action. Continue to lead wisely, Jake Lorne. Humanity depends on it." Jake looked out at the stars. Endless systems stretched before him, full of potential. Humans had arrived. They had proven their value through ingenuity, curiosity, and courage. And under Jake's guidance, humanity would continue to shape the galaxy, without violence, without domination, but with brilliance and heart. He leaned back in the pilot's chair, the vessel humming around him like a loyal companion. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. That mistake had now become the galaxy's greatest surprise. Jake whispered softly, almost to himself, "Humans were just getting started." And somewhere in the distant stars, alien leaders continued to whisper, "The humans, they are not what we expected. They are clever, they are adaptable, and they will be remembered." The human who had bought a 5,000-year-old alien ship for 10 credits had changed everything. and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.